Hi, Vivek. Welcome to our show.
Thanks for having me here, Sanjiv.
I was looking at your profile and I found that you were the co-founder of Crux.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that? Because you're an engineer. How you got into DMP World?
Well, actually, so it's a good question. My first startup that I joined, actually, so I've been working at startups for a long, long time. After I graduated from University of Denver grad school, I came and joined a startup over here in the Bay Area, and it was actually a marketing automation startup, and that didn't go anywhere, or at least for me, it didn't go anywhere. I left. I was employee number 15 or so at that company, and then about 18 months into that, I've realized I needed a change. So I started looking for startups that were even at an earlier stage than the one that I was at. And this was in like 99, fall of 99. So very different time than today, where I walk out of my house here in San Francisco and I throw a stone, I hit 5 startups, right? It wasn't like that back then.
It was a different
time. A different time, yeah. So I ended up joining this company called Wrapped, where I was the first engineer actually to join the company.
Wow.
And Wrapped was building inventory optimization, procurement planning, and price optimization software for high-tech manufacturing. So Intel, Apple,
Ariba, and Commerce One, a lot of companies were in
so
that.
This was right. So this was actually just before that wave started. So actually, we did have partnership conversations with Ariba at one point. Commerce One, we were having partnership conversations with as well. Yeah. So yes, you will remember because you are of the same generation as I am. So anyway, so I mentioned.
No, I'm saying I
mentioned that
one office.
Yes. So I mentioned that because the CEO of Wrapped, the founder and CEO of Wrapped, Tom Chavez, he and I then have developed a long-standing business friendship, business partnership, collaboration, etc. So I was still working together. So Wrapped got acquired by Microsoft, and we both left Microsoft. And when Microsoft acquired Wrapped had pivoted into online advertising. And our technology, we had adapted it to solve pricing and inventory management problems for display advertising. So Yahoo, MSN, New York Times, AOL, all of these big media companies were our customers. Wow. And that's where all the domain knowledge that I acquired about ad tech and martech came from. And Crux was a data management platform for media and ad tech and martech. So that's the backstory on Crux.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And now let's talk about your new company, which you call it a studio. Why did you call it a studio?
So it's an interesting model actually that's emerging. We call ourselves a startup studio. There are other.
You don't call it venture studio. You call it a startup studio, right?
Right. And so ventures, that's what I was going to say. Others call themselves venture studios. We call ourselves a startup studio. Part of the reason is I don't think of myself, of course, these are all ventures, right? So we're starting startups. You can call it a venture, doesn't matter, right? We focus more on the startup part because our model at Superset is to, that's the name of the studio. Our model at Superset is to incubate and hatch companies ourselves. So we're not VCs. We don't go and source deals where we invest in, right? We start the companies ourselves, and we find entrepreneurs, co-founders who come with us on the journey to build these companies, and we stand shoulder to shoulder with them as we build out these companies. So we take on operator roles at these companies. We're doing everything from designing product strategy to building technology architecture, writing code, selling software, hiring teams, everything that you do as founders at the early stages, we're doing as well. So that's the interesting part of our studio. The studio does have a fund. So in that sense, we are similar to a venture capital firm in that we have a fund. From an LP's perspective, we have LPs, we take a management fee, we have carry. So in the standard VC fund perspective, we have the 2 and 20 model too, but we like to think of ourselves as operators with capital. And that's very important for both me and Tom, because the operator part and the company building part comes first for us.
That's amazing. But let's go back 20 years ago when you were in IIT. What was your hostel?
I was in Jwala. I was in Jwalamukhi. Yeah, Jai Jwalaki. Yes. Jwala in 91. It was, I actually did not have too much exposure to IIT growing up. Like I didn't have anybody in my family or anybody in my network whom I knew well. So yeah, I didn't know what to expect, going into IIT. One of the things that I was pleasantly surprised by is how much attention and focus was paid to all the non-academic aspects of life at IIT. Something I didn't expect. Yeah, and I like to play sports. I'm interested in various extracurricular activities. I used to debate and all of that. So yeah, it was fun. It was fun exploring that aspect of IIT, and was a very positive experience for me.
So any story you can share with our audience, of your college time or school time?
Let's see, there are so many. But
when you were in trouble.
There are lots of stories like
a lot of those, right? Good.
but one interesting story I'll tell you is that, as students, you're always looking out for earning. You're always looking ways to earn money, right? Like at that time,
always.
It was, and at that time, it was even like the whole idea of working at McDonald's didn't exist. There was no McDonald's back then in
not in our time.
India.
Different time.
So yeah, so we used to earn money by going to the various college festivals and taking part in various competitions like jams and dumb charades and whatever, and the cash, they would award cash prizes.
Cash awards.
So we spent a lot of time. More perhaps than I would have. No, actually, that I don't think so. I wish I could have spent more time doing that, actually. And so I remember we were supposed to go to Bombay for the Inter-IIT in 1992. And that Inter-IIT meet was cancelled because, or postponed, I guess, because of the bomb blasts. And
that was a sad day.
Yeah, and so we found ourselves, the two or three of us, we found ourselves in Delhi with not much to do, and it was at that time in December that a lot of colleges on the Delhi University campus had these festivals. So we spent a lot of time at Delhi University earning a reasonable amount of money with all these extracurricular activities. That was a fun time, actually. That was lots of fond memories of that. And yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So, you are so successful. You have 2 major exits. Now you are helping entrepreneurs become or realizing their dreams. So what role curiosity has played in your life?
Yeah, it's a good question, Sanjiv. I think that that's one of the things that we look for in co-founders and entrepreneurs that we hire, right? The desire to learn new things, and not just technologies or things about business, but just about the world, right? That's played a huge part in getting me to where I am. Learning about culture, learning about it's a very simple thing, right? Like when you come to the US, and and I was lucky enough to be mostly familiar with the culture over here. But still, when you go out with people, whether it's a sales conversation or a company conversation and whatnot, it helps to have familiarity with the food people eat and the things they say and the sports people play and the personalities and all of that, right? And so I've always been curious about a lot of that, and that's helped me acclimate, like assimilate myself into life over here from the very beginning. And now, I mean, I love to read, and I'm one of those Luddites who actually likes to read paper books. I have a huge bookshelf over here.
Same here.
Book full of books, and yeah. So I don't think where I would have gotten to where I've gotten to if I hadn't been curious about how does this thing work? What can I do over here? What do I need to do to connect with you as a human being? Like, all of these things have helped me significantly in getting me to where I am.
The question really I have is, when we look back, a lot of us are very, very successful. Some of us are moderate and some are successful, but depends how you define success. And every successful person I talk to, I find them, they're very, very curious. So the question I have for you really is, can curiosity be taught? Can we develop that as a skill, or is it in our DNA, or is it genetics? What do you think about that?
I don't know enough to answer the DNA genetics question. I can tell you this. I think curiosity is a learnable craft. It may not be, that doesn't mean it's teachable, it's learnable. And what I mean by that is if you are around people who are curious and you see them, you see their habits and you see their mannerisms and you observe them being curious, and you observe the impact of that curiosity on their lives, and you're able to connect it. I see where Sally got to place A from place B. She asked these questions in an open-ended, empathetic, curious, right? And so now I can't teach you that, but what I can do is give you an environment where you can learn it by observing me and a whole bunch of other people who exhibit those same mannerisms. So yeah, I think it's learnable, Sanjiv. Not sure whether it's teachable, but definitely learnable.
Well, nothing is teachable. We both know when we were in IIT, nobody taught us anything. As what I remember, they put us in a deep end of the pool and they said, go and figure it out. And 9 out of 10 times we figured it out. We figured it out extremely well, all of us.
Yeah.
And I still remember some of my days where I used to, even after 3 months, that the whole subject, I have no freaking clue what I read, what I learn. And then there is minor one, and you need to figure it out, and you have night out and all. And all of us figured it out. So the point I'm So the point I'm trying to make it is, I do agree with you. Is it learnable skill? Absolutely. But on the same note, I felt as you even said, is the environment plays a major role. And what I find it is a lot of these kids who are selling themselves short, that's a term I'm going to use, lack of better word, is they know curiosity can take them to places, but since they grew up in a certain environment, they don't want to do that. They think curiosity is risky because that can put them in trouble. So if you create a curriculum around it, I do believe we may have a lot more people who can accomplish things like what you have done.
I'd like to believe that. I think to your point about the environment that we were brought up in, etc., right? Like, I was having a conversation earlier today I was interviewing someone, and we were talking about company culture and all of that, right? And this, he was observing that in his company or in his experience, engineers, especially and he was from IIT Delhi also. So we were talking about IIT Delhi techies and whatnot. And he was saying that like engineers are very reluctant to ask for help and be vulnerable in admitting that, hey, I don't know this. Can you help me? Right? Because they perceive it as a sign of weakness. And I think that's a cultural thing. You couldn't admit that. It's like over here, we have the same thing with sports and stuff, right? Oh, you don't play sports, like people will give you a hard time about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was telling him that that's been one of the biggest learnings for me. Like now I show up and say, I don't know anything. Please teach me, or how should we solve this, or what do you think we should do? Right? There are a few phrases that I've kind of picked up along the way that have helped me a lot, which is in the same kind of theme. One is, what do you think we should do? And the second is, what makes you say that? Right? So when somebody says something, right, and instead of saying why, which puts the other person on the defensive, because now they have to defend their position. Mm-hmm. If instead you say, what makes you say that? Now and your body language is important. What makes you say that? Sure. You are inviting them to come in and share their perspective, share their point of view in a safe, open space, right? And now I'm being curious because I genuinely want to understand why you are saying this.
Saying that, yeah.
And I think like it's little things like that, right? Which once you see other people doing them, and you're like, that was powerful. I'm going to start doing. In fact, I've this what makes you say that phrase. I use it so many times now that it's become a thing with my son. He also says that now. So yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely
the best outcome of this conversation. What makes you say that? I'm going to say that. Yeah. No, that's beautiful. That's a great idea. So expanding it a little bit further, now you are here and, you have definitely, you are giving back to IIT and a lot of other places.
Yeah.
You've done a lot of good work. So what is next for you?
Well, I think, first, I think there's a long way to go in terms of building and operating and taking Superset to the next level. I think we have a somewhat audacious vision of advancing the cause of entrepreneurship on the planet, right? And we've only been doing it for 2.5, 3 years, right?
Right.
And so we have big ambitions. We've taken a baby step. We were dipping our toes in the water. One of our companies is establishing an engineering team in India. We have five or six people now on that team in India that we've hired. And I'm having conversations with some folks that I know back there or back home with whom, and we're starting to brainstorm on, okay, first, here's this new model. And I'd like to explore ways in which we can extend it and leverage all the awesome talent that we have in India and bring this model over there. Because one of the things that I've been amazed with in the last 5-7 years or not is this culture of entrepreneurship that's starting to emerge now in India. And when we first started actually thinking about setting up a team in India, I was talking to a few friends. And one of my friends who runs a company in India called MoneyView, he was telling me that, and he's been doing it for quite some time, like 7-8 years. He was saying that when they started and they were recruiting, he actually had to talk to parents. He had to convince the parents of people he was trying to hire that this was a good career move for their children. Yeah, and I was like, I don't know whether I would be able to do that. Luckily, I haven't had to, which is a very good sign.
Good time for that. Call mother-in-law factor.
There you go. Right. So you ask what's next. I think there's a lot of work to be done in building more companies that solve the
that's fine.
that are going to
that's growing and all that. The big thing I want to ask, I consider you a futurist, and I believe people like you and all the people, especially in our network, we have a responsibility now. we have achieved so much. We have accomplished phenomenal things, but great power comes with greater responsibility.
Yeah.
So the question I really have is, what is your vision of the future? Let's talk about 30 years from now, not 10 years or 20 years. Let's talk about 2050 from now. What you see as a world to be? What do you think in terms of technology? Do you have any prediction or something you're working on? Because it's not too far. It will be in our lifetime. We both know.
Yeah, it's a good question, actually. And it's an interesting one because, and I actually don't think of myself as a futurist. Every successful partnership has there is complementarity in with the people who are partners, right? And so in my partnership with Tom, he's the one with the grand vision and the crazy, oh, we should be doing this or whatever. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute, okay, and then we figured it out.
Oh, you're an engineer.
But no, to answer,
so that's
what
your role
is.
But
but to answer your question, I think that I hope that in the future I'm a big believer and a proponent, advocate, whatever you want to call it, of clean energy. The climate change, all of the technologies that are now that are starting to come out now. I hope that in 30 years they become par for the course. Like I hope that in 30 years from now, a significant chunk of our electricity comes from solar and wind, right? I really, and I hope we innovate on the various business models and distribution models that people are starting to talk about now, and that becomes a reality. I hope that I hope that we can leverage technology to create a more equitable world, right? By providing opportunities for people from underrepresented, marginalized, these communities that haven't had as much opportunity, privilege, etc.
Sure.
They are able to, through technology, get more of the abundance that exists in this world, right? How we do that, I think there are lots of smarter people, way smarter people who have lots of great ideas on how that can be achieved, right? But that's I'm very hopeful on that front. I don't, I think that in Silicon Valley, especially, there is this belief that technology solves all problems, and there is one part of me that agrees with that, but then there is another which says that yes, but it has to be done in a mindful, organized, thoughtful way, right? Engineers can't fix all problems. They have to take into account, and that's why I'm a big believer in a liberal arts curriculum in engineering schools. You have to have that outer loop and a 360-degree kind of thinking when you're applying technology to solve problems that engineers have really no experience with. Our brains are not wired that way. So I don't know whether that answered your question, Sanjiv, but that's how I think about the future.
It partially does. We can talk for hours, but you are working in that area. So I always talk about social equity, but how do you bring social equity? So there are two ways I believe we can bring the social equity to the world is through innovation and entrepreneurship. You are supporting entrepreneurship. You're already working on that. And that we both know has created such an equilibrium in the society. Of course, there are a lot of imbalances, but gradually, I believe through entrepreneurship, we are able to reduce that gap and give everybody an opportunity to be whatever they want to be. And that's
absolutely
technology has done. And on the same note, when we were talking about technology, not to interrupt you, is look at COVID. Our world survived. Imagine 28 years ago, just 28. I'm not talking 100 years. 28 years ago, we had internet, but with the similar situation, we will be killing each other.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think there is a lot there's a lot to be grateful for and thankful for about how we as human beings have how much progress we've made on the technology front, and how we've used it for good, right? And it's not a but and there's also a darker side to it, which we have to be cognizant of and recognize that. And that's the thing, right? Like, as technologists are also eternal optimists. They always see that, okay, the technology will only be, or service or whatever you're going to call it, will only be used in the way that I intend for it to be used. But that doesn't always turn out to be the case, right? So, yeah.
No, but you are doing a great work, and you are helping a lot of entrepreneurs realizing their dream, and you are innovating. So that's huge. I'm really personally grateful for that. Thank you very much, because
thank you.
Mission and vision I even have, especially when I joined the board of PanIIT. That's a big thing I wanted to promote.
Yeah.
How can we help more people become entrepreneurs? And entrepreneurship
absolutely.
is not about, in my opinion, leaving your job and starting a company. Entrepreneurship to me is taking accountability. You can be engineering manager, but you are an entrepreneur because you're running that whole division or that organization, or you are innovating something. So I think we need to expand the definition of entrepreneurship, because currently the definition of entrepreneurship is very narrow. Everybody thinks entrepreneurship is all about building unicorns. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I think what you mean is there is an entrepreneurial mindset, and you don't have to have your own company to have an entrepreneurial mindset, right? And on that I completely agree with you. There are people who work at big companies who have entrepreneurial mindset. They end up doing amazing things at these big companies, even though they're not co-founders or CEOs of their own company, but in their own world at whatever company they're at, they're able to exert huge impact because of their mindset, right? And that mindset is one of doing more with less, being creative in the solutions that you put out with, figuring out how to bake a bigger pie, not carving up the balcons as people usually tend to do it in big companies and whatnot. And so there's definitely a mindset component to that. I agree with you, Sanjiv.
Thank you. Any parting thoughts for our audience?
Parting thoughts. I don't know.
I'll tell you about our demographic. Then I'll give you a few minutes to think. So our demographic is primarily ID alumni, and really, really smart, kick-ass people. And they are looking for ways and opportunities out there. So what they want from us is really to know where are the opportunities, what can they do, what can they try, where the future is going, so they can figure it out what they want to do in their lives. That's number one. Second is, do they have a shot? Do they have an opportunity?
Yeah.
Because our world has changed. 25 years ago, when you and me passed out, opportunities was very different. Where we came from is very different. Today, the world is very different. So are there still opportunities for them to develop things of the size of Google or Facebook or whatever we call it? And really expanding further, now metaverse is one word everybody's looking. NFT is another one. Bitcoin is another. The word is so complicated. How do you even find right opportunities? You talk about curiosity. That's the problem I have. I'm so curious that I have a t-shirt called Amplified Curiosity. Personally made for me. But it's just, you can go in hundreds of directions or dimensions. How do you find opportunities worth working on?
Yeah, that is the $65 billion question, isn't it? Like, how do you know this is worth working on? And you won't know that, huh?
You can solve it.
Well, you won't know until you try, right? So that's one takeaway is that don't be afraid to take risks.
Take chances.
See, Wayne Gretzky, one of the greatest hockey players ever, said, ice hockey, not field hockey, ice hockey, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
That's so beautiful. That's so beautiful.
So take shots. Take shots. Take some risk, take shots.
So one more question.
Yeah.
Do you have any confession for our audience?
Oh my God, goodness! This was the question I was dreading. Do I have any confessions for your audience? I have a confession actually that in my in an alternate life, I'm either the lead singer in a rock and roll band, or I am a spy.
Oh, wow.
Based in Vienna, Austria.
Oh, nice. That's my favorite city, by the way.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite cities too.
Wow. That's funny.
So there you have it.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Vivek. I really had fun. I'm sure our audience will love it. Thank you so much.
This was a hoot, Sanjiv. Thank you so much.
Thank you.